Hey yo guys, what's up and welcome back to Toe Tags Metal Reviews, and today we're giving you guys our first impressions of the new Lacuna Coil album titled Black Anima. So, this band is a band I haven't checked out much, but from what I've heard of this band, they are pretty damn cool. And they released 2 singles, I recall. We didn't react to anything, but we did listen to both singles and we really enjoyed everything that we heard.
Yeah, it was good stuff, man. I'm looking forward to listening to this album. This is a band, I've known this band forever, but never really got into them. Don't know why really. Maybe I checked out a song here and there and it just didn't really grab me, but this is gonna be my first time diving into a Lacuna Coil album and listening to the whole thing. So I'm pretty excited to see how I feel afterwards.
As am I. So with that being said, we're gonna listen to Black Anima for the very first time in its entirety. And we're gonna be right back to give you guys our first impressions, so stay tuned. Alright, so we just listened to Black Anima for the very first time in its entirety, Vile. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are mostly positive, but I will say that the first half of the album is way stronger than the second half of the album. The album definitely drops in quality in the second half. Basically from track 7 on, I wasn't really feeling it. It has some parts here and there that are okay, but track 7 specifically, I'm gonna get this out of the way because this song was very awkward because it's called Under the Surface for one, but there was no bass. Like, it was basically non-existent bass. Weird sentence. But yeah, it's super high on the treble. We thought like maybe the speakers were like crapping out on us. We're like, what the hell? So we waited for the next song to start, and then there we go, the bass is back.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, obviously there is bass there, but it's so low and low as in volume, not low as in tone. But it's just like, it sounds like trash.
And not only that, but like the guy's kick drum, you can barely hear it at all.
Barely hear it.
Whereas on the rest of the album, it sounds totally fine. So I think there's just an audio mishap that happened for that song, because we figured, you know, what if it might be the speakers? For the next few tracks, it's like, oh no, it's fine again. So there's something wrong with that song, maybe, at least from our experience.
The way that song was mixed was very, very raunchy.
It was weird, because it's like the rest of the album had a really good mix.
Yeah, and the song does have cool riffs, but that's overshadowed by the fact that there's just no bottom end.
Which just sucks, because it's like, it has some cool stuff, you just can't hear it.
So yeah, that was track 7, but tracks 1 through 6 are fucking fire. Like, these songs bang, they are pumping, they got energy, they got flair, the vocals are awesome, they got a great dynamics between the dual vocals between Christina and I think the guy's name is Andy, but they're just trading off cleans and harshes and just harmonizing and just really cool.
It's a really good balance between the two.
Exactly, and then you got the drums and the guitars, which are very in sync, much like, you know, Fear Factory. And there's a few songs that sound like Fear Factory because the male vocalist sounds a lot like
Burton C. Bell. Like,
exactly.
It's like the harsh vocals remind me a lot of Burton's vocals.
Very similar, I agree with that.
Which I don't mind, because I love Fear Factory.
Yeah, and some of these songs, like the way the rhythms are put together, is very reminiscent of Fear Factory. But I'm getting a lot of elements from different bands that I listen to. There's a lot of new metal stuff, Static X, some Slipknot, some Cold Chamber,
some Korn.
Like a lot of new metal elements, but they definitely have their own spin and their own style on everything as well. So it's not like they're just ripping off bands or ripping off styles. Like, definitely have their own vibe to it.
For sure. That's one thing that's really cool about this band, is that it's such an amalgam of a bunch of different sounds that you've heard, but it's its own thing because of that.
Yeah. And there's also like, they also throw in a lot of cool extra elements. Like, I heard some harmonica in there, some violin, some piano. Like, violin and piano you hear a lot in music. The harmonica though, which was actually in the very intro track, harmonica and piano together.
That was interesting, because it's like, it kind of sounded like harmonica. I don't know if it really was or not. It was a weird sound.
I could be wrong. It sounded to me like harmonica, but I brought it up and he was like, I don't know if that's harmonica. So maybe kind of double guess myself, but I'm sticking to my guns. I think it was harmonica.
Who knows? There's a lot of effects on this album, I noticed. Like, on every song, there's just so much packed in there. And it's not overbearing. Like, it's totally fine to listen to, you know, without trying to pay attention to that. But with just how much texture there is upon everything, like, even in individual parts, I found the vocals had such a nice texture to them. The overtones of the cleans were awesome.
Yeah.
Like, there's just so much, like, it's just a wide paintbrush over the whole album. And that's really good. Now, I feel the same way you do. The first half of the album is definitely stronger than the second half.
Yeah.
I found Sword of Anger, which is the second track after the intro track. It's one of those songs that just feels like a punch in the face. Like there's sometimes, the first like track of the album just throws hard and just hits you.
Yeah.
This is definitely one of those songs because it just it punches really hard.
Yeah, one thing I'll say too about the first half of the album, and certain songs, specifically Sword of Anger, Reckless, Layers of Time, I was really gravitating towards the chorus, and that's very, very odd for me because like, I don't like hooks. I'm like a fuck hooks kind of guy. Like, I don't like choruses. It's usually the weakest part of a song for me, but these choruses were grabbing me. Like, I was like, this is something that I can get behind, and I don't know if it's the arrangements or the tone of her voice, because she's got a really pretty high tonal voice that just sounds very, very nice in my ear. I don't know what it is, but they did their choruses right, at least for several of the songs.
Yeah, they were catchy, but they sounded good. They didn't feel overly catchy that they'll get in your head and get annoying.
Yeah.
Now, about the second half of the album, I think the issue is that there's too much of a divide between the halves, because the first half is a lot more aggressive, a lot more brutal.
Yeah.
The second half isn't, but the fact that those two chunks are like that is kind of iffy. So, in comparison, like the first half just feels so much stronger in that sense.
Yeah.
And I think it would be a bit better if something near the end of the album had more punch to it. Because I remember I said by the 10th track, which is Save Me, which I would consider the ballad of the album.
Yeah.
I said, after this song, the last one, which is the title track, really should hit home like super hard. Like bring the energy back up, end up on a high note. You don't really want to start at one level and then kind of just dip and then not go back up.
Recover, yeah.
Now, I'm not saying the second half is bad in that sense. It has a bunch of cool and interesting stuff. It's just having a level like that is just a little bit awkward. And then you just don't really feel like, you're in the second half, you're thinking, man, what happened,
Yeah, for me, the first half of the album felt like it was for fans of Fear Factory and Korn. The second half of the album felt like it was for fans of Linkin Park and Evanescence. That was kind of how I can describe it. The last song, as you mentioned, it didn't quite pick up and have the same punch as the first half of the album, but it did have a little more punch than the few tracks were before it. I thought it was a cool outro track.
Yeah,
it did its job. It was pretty short. It's like 3.5 minutes, ballpark.
Yeah.
It did its job. It was fine. But overall, I think I'm pretty impressed with the first listen. I'm looking forward to the week.
As am I. Like, this is still a really cool album. Like, we talked about first half, second half, but the whole thing is still pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, it had a lot to it. That's one thing I'm really excited about, checking it out for the entire week, because there's just so much texture, so many little things to pick up on, and we're going to be doing that. We're going to listen to the album frontwards, backwards, shuffle, however way you can think of throughout the entire week, and we'll be back next week to give our final review of Black Anima by Lacuna Coil. So that's all we got for you guys today. Remember to like the video. If you like it, comment. Tell us below in the comments what you thought of this album. What are your first impressions? And stick with us. We'll be back in a week to review it. Subscribe if you guys are new to the channel. I'm TV Fish.
And I'm Vile Self.
And we'll see you guys later.